Understanding the word compliance. Now, psychology of compliance is pretty interesting because here what we try to understand is a simple process of a request or a suggestion. This compliance is very different from obedience. Obedience is something that is seen in a classroom setting. A teacher orders usually a student, let's say, to do the homework, to submit the assignments, and that is not a request, it's more or less a order. It can be in the form of request, but it is more or less an order where there are deadlines and those have to be met. However, when we talk about compliance, the story is little different because under compliance, we are trying to create a social influence, and this social influence is through a request or a suggestion. A very simple example could be a child requesting a parent to go out for a trip. So that is a kind of compliance. He might suggest, the child, he or she might suggest the places to visit, and that is again a compliance. So we broadly understood what is a difference between compliance versus an obedience. Sometimes this compliance can be upfront and very direct. That is, you can visualize certain things around you. Let's say your friend goes to a place XYZ and you request your parents again to go to a place XYZ because you know where your friend had gone and you know all the surrounding places, and there is a feeling that there is a decent information about the place. However, at certain times, compliance can not be directly upfront and those can be indirect. You might have heard something from someone and based on that, you are trying to create a request. That is again a compliance. So, what are the means do you think are best for understanding compliance? There are numerous ways under which we talk about compliance. A very good example is a school notice board. You have n number of information being pasted onto the notice board. Similarly, there could be marketing agents, marketing services, a salesperson, or any kind of great deals that are there. It could be any festive season based on which there are great deals that are into the market, based on which there are advertisements, might be on media, might be on social network, and those are the ways which are acting to create more compliance. So let's say I heard about a chocolate which is very popular these days into the market and lot of my friends have purchased it. So might be I'm willing to try it for once, and that is due to the great big ads that are there onto the walls across the city. The next way of understanding is the lure given to the customer. That means sometimes it says there is a kind of subtle advertisement. Subtle advertisement means the thing is not brought about directly. It is a kind of indirect message that is being percolated, and that is again a way of creating compliance. So today what we are trying to understand are three basic forms of compliance. All three of those are very interesting, very simple to understand. So let's begin understanding those one by one. The first one that we would understand today is foot in the door technique. Now what is foot in the door technique? It simply means you start with a small request, and once you feel that that request is being fulfilled, you might ask for a bigger request. A child demanding a small balloon, and then child thinks I got the balloon, so he might demand about more toys, bigger toys, and n number of things. And there is a feeling that since one of the demand was fulfilled, all of the remaining demand would be fulfilled because there is consistency. It's a kind of similar group of people that they are demanding to. Might be on one day he demanded to his father, the next day he is demanding to his mother. But there is a kind of similar set of people, that is the parents, the guardians, whom the child is demanding and the demand is being fulfilled. Another good example to understand is you go to your friend's house and you ask for notes on one of the chapters that is there. So let's say you are doing your assignments and one day one of your friends asks for an assignment. You give that assignment to the friend. The next day the friend will come and ask for the whole set of assignments, the next 10 assignments, and might be assignments on a weekly basis. So there is a kind of pattern of consistency that occurs, that this is my friend and I have to provide all my maths or science assignments to him or her whenever it is done. So that is a kind of consistency. So this technique, which is foot in the door technique, is based on the principle of consistencies, and there is no contradiction that is there. Since the smaller request is being fulfilled, it is being transferred to a bigger request. As simple as that. The next one is further interesting, and this technique is known as the door in the face technique. So foot in the door, that means you are starting with a small request and moving up to a big request. Face in the door is reverse of it. You start with a bigger request and end up with a smaller request. You ask for many number of toys, your parent says no, this is not possible. So you say okay, one balloon will do. So that is how you have the door in the face technique. It starts with a larger request and ends up with a smaller request. Another good example is, let's say you are working in a company and your manager is observing you since last 1 year and you have been diligently working in the company. You feel it is the right time to ask for a promotion. You go to your manager and ask that I have been working since last 1 year, my reports are good and I have been consistent with the company. Please consider an increment of 20% in my salary. The manager says 20% is not feasible. Let's settle it out to 10%. So what happens is, your request was larger, it came up ultimately with a smaller response. So from a larger response or a larger request subsiding to a smaller request. Now, important, this is based on the principle of reciprocity. That means you know that the bigger request is not being fulfilled, and since the person, let's say I am the manager of the company, you are coming to ask for an increment, and in the first round I say no, 20% is not possible, but at the same point a second thought goes in my mind, oh, this person has been working for so long and has been dedicated to the company, has been working diligently and consistently, so I must consider something. So ultimately what comes up is 10%. So when a person says no, an immediate thought comes to a mind where there is a positive response being building up around it, and therefore this is based on the principle of reciprocity. And this is the second technique we talked about. The next technique is further interesting. The next technique talks about the low ball technique. Now low ball technique is an interesting example where what we try to do is, we try to focus on a concept where we are going for purchasing a car, and then once you are going for purchasing a car, you try to ask for a discount, and let's say I am there to purchase a car and I say, this car model, everything looks fine, I am ready to purchase this model, give me a 20% off. The salesperson says, okay, we can do something around 10%, 20%, but then he says, I'll have to confirm it with my manager. So what the salesperson does is, he goes to his manager and says that this person is asking for, let's say, 20% discount and he's genuinely interested, I'm sure he'll buy. So the manager says, okay, we can consider this, but 20% is not feasible, settle it at 10%. Now since I am a customer who has already made up my mind with purchasing the car, I would consider that even if the things are settling down not at 20% discount but 10% discount, it is fine. I am ready to pay a little higher price than as usual, because I have made a commitment, and since my commitment is already done, my commitment has already been made, therefore what I am doing is I am agreeing onto a lesser discount. That means in the previous case, let's say when I was about to buy a car for 5 lakhs, now I would be able to buy it for 5.5 lakhs. But in either case, I am committed to the cause because of the words that I have spoken, and I believe that since I have given my words, it's my commitment now to go even if there is a difference of 20-50,000 that is there. And therefore, this is based on the principle of commitment. Once a person has said yes or agreed to an initial request, even after the commitment remains the same, even after the fact that there is a little change or twist into the scenario. So what happened here is we talked about 3 important types of compliances and the 3 principles involved in those. Very important. A quick recap. Principle of consistency occurs in foot in the door technique, where there is a smaller request. Once it is being fulfilled, a person moves towards a bigger request, and there would be a consistency. It would be a similar set of people who would be fulfilling the request. The next is principle of reciprocity, where the initial demand was large, but since it was not fulfilled, a smaller request would be taken into consideration, and this is the door in the face technique, and usually this is most effective when the same person repeats the task. If there is the change in the person that is there, this would become less successful. The last technique that we focused on was principle of commitment, which is the low ball technique, and that is where, since you have already committed to a cause, even with minor fluctuations that are there, you would stay on to your commitment and not change further. And those are the 3 principles that we have focused here. Very important for your basics in psychology, social psychology specifically, where group behavior becomes very important. We would be covering many such interesting lectures in the upcoming sessions. Stay tuned for further updates from our side. Have a wonderful day ahead.